Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data.
Yo. Yo. What up, though? Oh, what up, though? What up, lurkers? What up, Chatterino watchers? What up, James from the Internet Refugees? What up, Old Lobster? Old Lobster always in. Old Lobster GPT, right? Old Lobster AI up in this piece. Oh, I don't know. Only you could actually answer that. Your boy is probably. If an AI thinks for me, then is it am? The question is, if I am like, you know, no thoughts, head empty, then am I still am? And how would you know if the AI, like, if you copied yourself 1-to-1 to an AI, would you, which is you? Are you both you? Is it a clone? Da da da. That's another episode. Oh, your boy is under the weather. Oh, we are definitely not intelligent. Like, we think we know stuff, and we are sussy. So I'm gonna battle this out as long as I can. There's a bunch of news, some commentary, some topical commentary as well. I mean, obviously AI is always topical, but like this is like topical. So we might as well get at it, right? Do 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 do. Do 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 do. All right, first, a little something from DeepMind. They got a new model that translates vision and language into action. The robotic transformer is a novel vision language action model that learns from both web and robotics data and translate this knowledge into generalized instructions for robotic control. There's a few different things happening in robots. We covered the MIT article related to the like the easier way to train a robot with smaller data sets. We know that China is working on trying to get a production level robot up and running ASAP. Couple of years looking like. So it's a good time for robots. High capacity vision language models are trained on web scale datasets, making these systems remarkably good at recognizing visual or language patterns and operating across different languages. But for robots to achieve a similar level of competency, they would need to collect robot data firsthand across every object, environment, task, and situation. In our paper, we introduce Robotic Transformer 2, a novel vision language action model that learns from both web and robotics data and translates this knowledge into generalized instructions for robotic control while retaining web scale capabilities. We also show that incorporating chain of thought, we see this a lot with LLMs. Chain of thought reasoning allows RT2 to perform multi-stage semantic reasoning, like deciding which object could be used as an improvised hammer, a rock, or which type of drink is best for a tired person, an energy drink. Meh, but yeah, I get where you're going. So, like, what is happening in this stage? A gray donkey walks down the street. Here it is in Spanish. I could pronounce it, but I don't understand what it says. And what should robot do to task? And then it's got a translation and a rotation. We performed a series of qualitative and quantitative experiments on our RT2 models on over 6,000 robotic trials. Exploring RT2's emerging capabilities, we first searched for tasks that would require combining knowledge from web-scale data and the robot's experience, and then define 3 categories of skills: symbol understanding, reasoning, and human recognition. Each task required understanding visual semantic concepts and the ability to perform robotic control to operate on these concepts. Commands such as pick up the bag about to fall off the table, or move banana to the sum of 2 plus 1, where the robot is asked to perform a manipulation task on objects or scenarios never seen in the robotic data, required knowledge translated from web-based data to operate. Across all categories, we observed increased generalization performance, more than 3 times improvement compared to previous baselines. So this is, again, talking about the issue for AI and robots is novel environments, novel situations in environments. And they are making a claim that they're, yeah, it looks like a relative of the Palm model. So they're making the claim that their robots are better able to perform in novel environments. This is going to be important, especially for, the a good primary use case, which is the assistance of, people in medical situations, people in, care facilities, things like that, and then eventually domestic robots, workplace robots, things of that nature. Interesting. Another thing on robotics, robotic hand rotates objects using touch, not vision. So this is another form of information input that they are accessing. Inspired by the effortless way humans handle objects without seeing them, engineers have developed a new approach that enables a robotic hand to rotate objects solely through touch without relying on vision. Using their technique, the researchers built a robotic hand that can smoothly rotate a wide variety of objects, from small toys, cans, and even fruits and vegetables, without bruising or squishing them. Right there, that is the technology that is going to allow for farming, right? A robotic hand accomplished these tasks using only information based on touch. The work could aid in development of robotics that manipulate objects in the dark. And there's another thing, so one of the issues you run into with a robot in a medical environment is that the robot, could become contaminated. if a human becomes contaminated, we've all seen Outbreak, right? Like something like that. But it is far easier to clean a robot than it would be to clean a human to that level. The whole, can we inject it with UV? Can we spray it with bleach? All that kind of stuff. Next. Turf Island doing surveillance state shit. Home Office secretly backs facial recognition technology to curb shoplifting. I think it's cool that they connected the chain of thought stuff to the robot. Yeah, no, again, the technology is going to help the AI. The AI is going to help the technology, and back and forth we go. Covert government strategy to install electronic surveillance in shops raises issues around bias in data and contrasts sharply with the EU ban to keep AI out of public spaces. Home Office officials have drawn up secret plans, not so secret, to lobby the independent privacy regulator in an attempt to push the rollout of controversial facial recognition technology into high street shops and supermarkets, internal government minutes seen by the Observer reveal. The covert strategy was agreed during a closed-door meeting between Policing Minister Chris Phillip, senior Home Office officials, and the private firm FaceWatch, whose facial recognition cameras have provoked fierce opposition after being installed in shops. Yeah, this is a terrible idea, but at this point, not but and Turf Island is already well on its way to a surveillance state, and you know, oh no, not the surveillance state like China. It's like, dude, just get it together. And we're gonna watch a video. Yeah, I don't know this person, so it's a new video. We'll see how it goes. It's covering a familiar topic, and that's the racial bias of AI models. Another article from AItopia. Rise of AI could see a lot of people living as second-class citizen, warned Sony Alice Zhang. Killer robots and godlike computers is Alice. Robots and godlike computers are far from the most pressing threats posed by artificial intelligence, AI ethicist Alice Zhang tells Dezeen in this interview. Said she argues the industry must first focus on tackling more immediate, insidious harm AI is already causing by entrenching societal biases and inequalities. What we were just talking about. As an AI ethicist, I often get the question, is your job to prevent killer robots? And I'm personally less concerned about that scenario where it's very obvious what the harm is. I'm more concerned about some of the invisible harms that tend to fly under the radar. People might have no recourse against biased AI. Very possible that over time, a lot of people could be living as second-class citizens in a society of AI, where systemically models might not work well for them or might be biased against them. And they might have no idea or recourse to actually do anything about this, especially if the AI models work well for people in power. Compared to a lot of existential threats, there are a lot of decisions that would have to be made in order for AI to destroy humanity. I understand, there is a list of priorities and where you got to start, but, I don't. I always tend to have a concern of people who don't properly appreciate how badly things could go. It and not we shouldn't do we should find the resources to do both things. Yeah. And these are we've already covered all these things, different instances of bias showing itself in AI and other environments. All right. Protein folding stability set to be unraveled on a massive scale. A new high throughput technique can analyze the folding stabilities of nearly 1 million protein sequences at a time. The unprecedented method, which is fast and accurate and scalable, promises to help understand how amino acid sequences fold into three-dimensional conformations while providing the data needed to improve machine learning models. To Northwestern University. Folding stability in parallel for as many as 900,000 protein sequences, up to 72 amino acids long. The researchers measured stability for 1.8 million sequences in total and filtered their data to obtain 776,000 high-quality folding stabilities. Predicting the stability of an arbitrary protein sequence has always been an impossible dream. Proteins were viewed as just too complex, but with millions of data points from this technique, I believe we'll be able to develop accurate models. This will illuminate a huge amount of biology and accelerate the design of new, more sophisticated protein structures. All right, I am going to, before I forget, send this to my man Corey. All right, let me get this fired off. Sorry, folks. Uh, so I mentioned about Skibbity Toilet. Um, apparently, like we watched it on Paradigm. I watched it myself. We watched it on Paradigm, and now somebody gifted 5 subs to Paradigm to rewatch Skibbity Toilet, and they were looking to see if I wanted to come and help them out. And I don't know how stable your boy is today. Got a couple unwell people in the house. I'm a little unwell myself, and so I'm just trying to stay on target. Namin. What else we got? Fragmented Truth from VentureBeat. How AI is distorting and challenging our reality. Do 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 do. More More issues appeared as ChatGPT was soon followed by a plethora of chatbots from Microsoft, Google, Tencent, Baidu, Snap, SK Telecom, Alibaba, Databricks, Anthropic, Stability Lab, Meta, and others. Remember Sydney? What's more, the various chatbots all provided substantially different results to the same prompt. The variance depends on the model, the training data, and whatever guardrails the model was provided. Although perhaps all the efforts to eliminate potential harms from LLM are moot. What up, Poodlehawk? New research reported by the New York Times revealed a prompting technique that effectively breaks the guardrails of any of these models, whether closed source or open source. Fortune reported that this method had a near 100% success rate against Vicuna, an open source chatbot built on top of Meta's original Llama. Bioweapons, defraud consumers, safety implications. There's a growing cacophony of disparate results from multiple models, even when responding to the same prompt. A fragmented AI universe, like our fragmented social media news universe, is bad for truth and destructive for trust. We are facing a chatbot-infused future that will add to the noise and chaos. The fragmentation of truth in society has far-reaching implications, not only for text-based information, but also for the rapidly evolving world of digital human representations. Rise of digital humans. Rapid progress in computer graphics, coupled with advances in artificial intelligence, is now putting human-like faces on chatbots and other computer-based interfaces. They have high-end features that accurately replicate the appearance of a real human. Highly detailed and realistic human models that can overcome the limitations of realism and sophistication. He adds that these digital humans can interact with real humans in nature and intuitive ways and can efficiently assist and support virtual customer service, healthcare, and remote education scenarios. All right, new David Shapiro just dropped, but I don't think we're gonna watch that today. Yeah. Um, a jargon-free explanation of how AI large language models work. To understand how large language models work, you first need to understand how they represent words. Humans represent English words with a sequence of letters like CAT for cat. Language models use a long list of numbers called a word vector. Um, for example, here's one way to represent cat as a vector. We got a series of numbers. The full vector is 300 numbers long. To see it all, click here and show the raw vector. Okay. Let us take a look. Where show the raw vector? Mm-mm. This is really cool, though. Can I do other ones? Show the raw vector. Whoa. That's a lot of words. Or a lot of numbers, excuse me. Can I do a search? Do. Oh, that's neat. 5,000 most frequent words in the English Wikipedia mode. All the green dots are nouns. The orange dots are proper nouns. The lighter red are adjectives. The darker, like purple, are verbs. And then I think they might be blue as adjectives. That's neat. That's neat. All right, so I'm going to throw this in the Discord so that you can have it. You can read it over because it's rather long, and you can share it. Make sure that you are in the Discord if you want access. What up, Comrade Zoop? Comrade Zoop up in this piece. GPT-3, not 4, which is the current model, not 3.5, which is ChatGPT, but GPT-3 can reason about as well as a college student, psychologists report. The artificial intelligence language model, GPT-3, performed as well as college students in solving certain logic problems like those that appear on standardized tests. The researchers who conducted the experiment write that the results prompt the question of whether the technology is mimicking human reasoning or using a new type of cognitive process. Solving that question could require access to the software that underpins GPT-3 and other AI software. No matter how impressive our results, it's important to emphasize that this system has major limitations. It can do analogical reasoning, but it can't do things that are very easy for people, such as using tools to solve a physical task. See, you're doing the banjo thing, right? Like, it doesn't have hands, right? If you give it hands, like with the RT2 model, then we'll see if it can do physical tasks. Like, would you tell a person with no hands that you're not good at doing things that are easy for people, right? Like, this is silly. All right, it'll be in the Discord. Using AI to protect against AI manipulation. PhotoGuard, developed by MIT CSAIL researchers, prevents unauthorized image manipulation, safeguarding authenticity in the era of advanced generative models. There's a video. Got a video, and it's got Musk in it for some reason. Why would you do that? You were doing so well. Let's watch your video. Gee willigers. Exactly, Poodlehawk. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're looking at. It's not a good video, MIT. My fish are the next step in evolution because they can breathe water. No, that's fair. It's fair. They can buy the the houses that are on the coast that Ben Shapiro wants us to sell the Aquaman. All right. PhotoGuard uses two different attack methods to generate these perturbations. The more straightforward encoder attack targets the image's latent representation in the AI model, causing the model to perceive the image as a random entity. The more sophisticated diffusion one defines a target image and optimizes the perturbations to make the final image resemble the target as closely as possible. You gotta dumb it down for me, bro. I'm missing. Technique, minuscule alterations in pic. Oh, I know it's a Photoshop because I've seen many in my time and I can see the pixels. We've gone back to the past. AI models view an image differently from how humans do. Here we go. It sees an image as a complex set of mathematical data points that describe every pixel's color and position. This is the image's latent representation. The encoder attack introduces minor adjustments into this mathematical representation, causing the AI model to perceive the image as a random entity. As a result, any attempt to manipulate the image using the model becomes nearly impossible. The changes introduced are so minute that they are invisible to the human eye, thus preserving the image's visual integrity while ensuring its protection. So, it would be a thing that would have to come in at the beginning of it. Okay, now I understand. So, like, this is the original image. This is the AI generated image. And with the PhotoGuard, this is what you end up with because the only things that are, like, official and original are the faces. See? You should have just put that in your video. I can help you. Is that it? I thought there was more news. Okay. So, now we're going to get into this. And you know me, you know I'm not calling out a specific streamer by name. I don't do that. This is not intended to cause drama, start shit, anything else like that. If anyone recognizes who I'm talking about and that person wants to have a conversation, we could do it online, we could do it offline. If you don't want to have a conversation, then, we don't have to have a conversation. I'm not naming names for that reason. But I watched someone earlier today. Should we watch the video? Let me give you some context, I guess. Do. Okay. Now, first off, I don't know who this dipshit is. I don't like them off rip because of how they proceeded into this thing. I feel like they're an asshole. But there's something about the words that are going to come out of their mouth that like you know how I've addressed the arguments about people and their opinions about AI, and I'm not saying that it's the same, but it does rhyme, okay? So we're not going to watch this whole video. I don't care about this person. We're just going to watch this beginning part, okay?
You may have noticed that a year or so ago, I released an essay condemning reaction content, especially on Twitch and YouTube. This led to Moist Critical ostensibly making a video about my essay, but in reality, he covered very little of it, and what he did cover, he entirely misrepresented. The ensuing drama also inspired those who cover such things to make videos, collectively making some of the most dishonest and poorly argued videos that exist on this platform. Understandably, I felt it necessary to respond to such videos when I found the time, as I, like most people, don't like misinformation, especially about myself. However, I was recently informed that I missed a video from around that time, a video that turns out to be the runt of an already very sickly litter. When I was first
Okay, like you're picking up the vibes, right? Like this dude has like he uses specific inflammatory language.
informed, my response was, who cares? It was, after all, over a year ago now, and even back then it was a big ask for me to take time out of my busy schedule to make the response videos that I made back then.
And yet here you are.
It seemed inconceivable that this new video could be so pathetically bad that it'd be worth the time to respond to it. So I
And yet here you are.
watched the video and holy shit, it really does need to be seen to be believed.
And yet here you are. And it's like this small content creator and like that. It's just like
To be honest with you, I've become increasingly defeatist as I've gotten older, largely concluding that combating misinformation is usually a futile venture. In many cases, it will only be a tiny fraction of the people who accept the falsehoods in the first place who will ever be in a position to even see a refutation of them. And even those in that position will have every psychological bias inspiring them to find some superficial reason to dismiss it out of hand. So why make this video at all? Truthfully, in large part, it's because I think it'll be very funny. One of the hardest choices I had when making this video was deciding whether I wanted to cover every single error Gabby made or merely cover the more hilarious greatest hits. For example, there is a section in the video where Gabby brings on her star witness.
Alright. So that's it. We're done. Yes, usually the Mayo one, Carpe. And also, what up, Carpe? Destiny is talking to this guy. I don't care about Destiny at all, but yeah, no, it would make sense that they would, because, okay, so I don't even know what to do with Dracula on a boat. So my feelings around this, right, like, is that things get quiet. Maybe you take a look at your algorithm, you take a look at your stuff. Soup, if you want to take a look, it's content for you. I'm not watching this video. We're not going to do this. I just wanted it for the way that this particular person went about, opening their argument, right? Like, that's the thing. But you have at it. I think you'll have. And it's like an hour and a half long. So like if you want to go at it, and he doesn't like when people use his content, even if it's like transformative or whatever, then like go off, right? But anyways, the point I was going for is that I was putting it in the context of how people argue against AI art and the way that, like, AI art has been used by the corporations to train their models, right? So the streamer said that that creators need to pre-state. Now, they're not talking about AI art, right? They're talking about video content. The streamer stated that creators need to pre-state that they do not want their content used. So this argument right here, if applied to AI art usage for training models or author use for training models or any of that stuff, it negates all of that as being a problem because they did not pre-state that they wanted it. Now, you can make arguments about copyright, and that is definitely a thing. However, this person is also going to make that argument that their stuff is like copyrighted, like that they are, that original creator and that you shouldn't be using their shit without permission. They also talking about that they wouldn't share stuff that was behind a paywall, right? Like, if you have access to something like what's it called? I can't remember. The Curiosity, is that the one? like FD Signifier and those are part of that. Like if something's behind a paywall like that they wouldn't use it. However, it is common practice, and common practice that ad block Nebula. Thank you, Carpe. The ad blocks for like YouTube and other ways to get around paywalls for articles are common usage in the streamer space. So why is it that those don't apply and like compensation for art that is posted to the internet would apply? Right? And again, I'm willing to hear any arguments. I am good faith as fuck, Okay. I just found out today that CGP Grey, according to this streamer, doesn't want people reacting to their content on stream. I've done that. I won't do it again. I don't know even if it's true, but like to hear something like that indicates to me that that's not something I want to do, especially for someone that I respect like CGP Grey. It's unfortunate because I feel like it is very useful, illuminating certain points that only CGP Grey does in their way, but it is what it is. Like if somebody, because where is it? The argument was that if you post something on the internet, on YouTube, for instance, right, that it implies consent to be used, right? But there is, you really got to make a good argument to how that implied consent applies to YouTube, but wouldn't apply to like the art, for instance, that might exist on DeviantArt, right, or something like that. What up, Zach App? Like you got to make people got to make a good argument for why they are different, right? Like how is one thing different from the other? If your issue is who gets paid, I do education. So I think fair use for everything I do is a thing. Other people might disagree, and that is something that has to be considered. But it's, but if it implies consent, then like again, what is the line? Define your terms, I guess. Like, why is it okay for this entity? Is it a matter of that this corporation here is bad, right? Which, like, I understand the validity of corporation bad, but individual good, then where is the line, right? If this individual becomes so successful that they turn into a corporation, where's the line? Like, is there a dollar amount? Like, I want to understand, how people make their arguments around this. Because again, my argument is simple. Let us just take care of everyone's material needs. We take care of everyone's base material needs. And then generally speaking, AI art, 10 million, fair enough. At least you have a line and it's clearly defined. Once we take care of everyone's material needs, then the difference between AI art and human-made art becomes an aesthetic one, as opposed to a life or death financial one. More than that, and you're pretty much taking from others' chances to thrive. Like, if the AI is used for education, is that fair use? Like if I was to use AI, I mean, I do use AI. I walked chat through my conversation with ChatGPT regarding the like what it means to have human values, what are those human values, and what are the political and economic systems that best address human values. And it basically came down as like a light socialist, kind of a soc dem kind of thing, which makes sense considering its data set, right? If the AI rips content for education, I don't know, like, I mean, are there copyright laws that fall under that? I don't know. It's a question. Streamer said no amount of Twitter fingers is going to make it go away. I feel the same way about AI art, and I don't feel that this is a good argument that, like, like if you are upset with how the AI was trained, then like people are not being compensated for their creation. People on YouTube are compensated for their creation through advertising bucks. Based on what's commonly known as peak happiness income before diminishing returns, which actually isn't recorded at 100K yet. 100 years worth should be enough at any age. I'm with you. I'm with you. Fair use is a doctrine in the United States that permits limited use of copyrighted materials without having to first acquire permission from the copyright holder. Yes, with a but. It is in the legal, like, when you get into court, that things get weird, right? Like, there isn't a clear definition of what is fair use. And, yeah, no, that's gross. Whenever I left work, I'm out. In April 2006, the filmmakers of Loose Change were served with a lawsuit by these folks over the film's use of their footage, specifically footage of the firefighters discussing the collapse of the World Trade Center. With the help of an intellectual property lawyer, the creators of Loose Change successfully argued that a majority of the footage used was for historical purposes. It was significantly transformed in the context of the film. They agreed to remove a few shots that were used as B-roll and served no purpose to the greater discussion. The case was settled and a potential multi-million-dollar lawsuit avoided. This film was not yet rated, also relied on fair use to feature several clips from copyrighted Hollywood productions. The director had originally planned to license these clips from the studio owners, but discovered that studio licensing agreements would have prohibited him from using this material to criticize the entertainment industry. This prompted him to invoke the fair use doctrine, which permitted use of copyrighted materials to provide analysis and criticism of published works. And then we fall into, like, what is the definition of transformative? Is transformative, like, is there a certain amount of content, that you have to do? Like, how, like, let's do the easy one, right? Like, I got a, 20-minute YouTube video. How much of that video do I have to comment on? How often do I have to pause? What defines transformative? And it really varies on a case-by-case basis. Like, for instance, like in my opinion, 100%. I was actually, that is right here, Zach, is the use of art by AI companies transformative? Right? Like, does my watermark transform it? What if I make it really annoying and moving above the screen? There are legal rulings about what qualifies as transformative, at least in regards to visual arts, images, logos, and stuff, if I if I recall correctly. Yeah, I'm not saying that there aren't, like, it's just basically there's a thing coming that comes up in regard to music sampling, right? And I watched a bunch of videos on music sampling a while back, because I feel that music sampling in other music is one of the best arguments for training AI on art on the internet. I make videos of me flying drones. I want people to watch them on their own streams, but I would also at least like to be recognized for the work. I'm with you, and like now you have made an affirmative consent for people to use your content, and you would probably put that on your videos, right? Like, use with I did not. Zach, you like use with acknowledgement, whatever it's called. It's part of the common, you know what I'm talking about. Where it's fair use as long as you acknowledge that the people that created it. Thing that might come into play when AI is ruled upon. So anyway, when it comes to music sampling, what you do, according to these video people on the internet, whatever veracity they have, you just go ahead and you do the sample, and if the song never hits big, then nobody gives a shit. And if the song does hit big, then you can work out a licensing arrangement with the original creator. And that my gut says that's how the court cases are generally going to go. That's an hour and a half, baby. But thank you. Like, I will definitely watch it, There's a YouTuber, Stephanie Sterling, who used to leverage the YouTube monetization system against the copyright holders by combining works from multiple holders, in this case using Nintendo footage with Sega footage and similar stuff. Then no one would make money off their works. Yeah, there are ways that you can, you can play it. If you're familiar with the character Constantine from DC Comics, most recently in the show Legends of Tomorrow, the Keanu Reeves movie, this character in the comics, a character Constantine sells his soul to 3 different devils. Like, hell is ruled by a triumvirate. He sells his soul to each of the 3 devils, and then when he's dying of lung cancer, and when he dies, all 3 of them show up to collect his soul, and rather than fight a civil war in hell, they bring him back to life, basically. So that is how I would contextualize what you just said. In that sense, I feel AI is transformative because you can't have the outcome without multiple sources. I personally would have liked to see Guy Pearce. Yeah. No, I could. From Memento, right? Just swap out the Memento tattoos with like sigils and shit. Yeah, 100%. I think that the guy from the show, the Legends of Tomorrow, did an excellent job with Constantine. And I'm not a huge fan of the Keanu Reeves version, but there's only like a few versions in that regard. Anyways, the streamer also said to get permission first. That it's silly to get permission first, right? Like that before you could play any video, any content, anything like that, you would have to ask for permission. this right here, these are there other than the CGP Grey part. Like, these arguments are arguments for training AI off stuff that is available on the internet that is not behind a paywall. Right? If AI was trained by something that happens to be behind a paywall, which includes copyright, you can make an argument that, you know, that is out of bounds, right? Like, but if you put something on the internet, you generally know that, like, I'm just punting this. Like, I have VODs. People can take my VODs and do stuff with it. Like, we all know that people do stuff with VODs, right? Like, we're not going to pretend. So, what does that mean? Like, now I could make an argument that if somebody took my VOD and used it and did it, like, manipulate it in such a way that it made me look bad, I could make a copyright argument based on my own IP, such as it is. But then the counter argument to that is parody or satire, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. Is they could say, "Oh no, I wasn't, you know, slandering you. I was doing satire." H3H3, I know who that is. I don't watch their content either. Like, they fall in that Hassan space. I've never watched Hassan other than on other people's streams, you know what I mean? My monitor went down. Okay. Yeah, I know who they are. I know that they shoot from the hip a lot, and that will get you in trouble. I try to avoid shooting from the hip, but it happens. All right, so that's it. I said what I had to say. If anybody knows who the hell I'm talking about, and they would want to tell that person, and that person wants to get mad, then I would hope they would have conversation with me. My stream, your stream, offline, I don't care. It's not about that, right? Like, it's just, I would prefer people just to have good arguments. You know, I just want good arguments. Internally. If you don't give a shit about whether or not your arguments are consistent across the board, we have nothing to talk about because you just don't give a shit. Okay, cool. Deuces. And this is why I don't call people out by name, is because there's nothing for you to defend, you know what I mean? All right, cats.
Welcome to the highlights of Day 11 of Cat Royale. We've got our usual roundup of what happened today. Then we'll hear from one of the artists at Blast Theory.
Hey.
As we come to the finale of Cat Royale, the AI has been laying down its biggest moves. Early on, we kept the AI focused on training, so it would occasionally keep experimenting with a game, even if the cats hadn't been enthusiastic. Today, we switched focus to exploitation mode, so that the AI suggested more of their favourite games. So there are many snacks, a lot of feather helicopter games for Ghostbuster, and Clover's absolute favourite, the Orange Bird. Why have the artists made Cat Royale? Here's Matt Adams.
We're living in a culture devoted to consumer choice, which technology has exacerbated. We can get what we want as soon as we want it. And AI takes this problem to a new level. If computers can learn from us, then they can meet our needs more fully, more quickly, and to a new level of personalization. In Cat Royale, we've shown what it looks like as an AI adapts and learns, trying to fulfill the wishes of the cats. Maybe, like me, you felt the same mix of pleasure and disquiet, watching the cats being pandered to by a robot. They get what they want, but is it what they need? And if AI systems can make us happier, who decides what that looks like?
And that's a fair question, right? And theoretically, Carpe, yes, right? It's like then we get into philosophical discussions about, what is happiness and what does happiness look like, and what does happiness look like under the current economic model? What would it look like under another economic model? Is happiness what we want as a species? It isn't. Now we get into the issue of definition, right? Like, what is happiness, right? Like for a lot of people, happiness is being on their phone, right? Playing with the internet, being on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, whatever. So that happiness is available to not everyone, right? But like the vast majority. Confining my that's between y'all. Confining my discussion specifically to the United States, like the majority do have access to some definition of happiness in that thing. But there's also spaces where that happiness can turn into something unhealthy. I love to not stress over my housing, utilities, and food every day of every week. That is why, that is where the beginning of the discussion starts, right? If people want to have a conversation about whatever, it's like, well, do you want people to die, or do you want people to have access to, the basics? And I include things like internet. I include things like electricity. I don't give a shit about your weird libertarian arguments. That's the thing. Is like, it's everybody. If everybody gets, then there's no problem. If you have to segment out a section for any reason, you are saying, I'm okay with these people dying, fuck them. And I can't have a conversation with someone like that. Yeah. Whatever is required to function in your country until we get rid of countries, whatever is required to function in your country is what you should have. And then, as far as I'm concerned, people don't need to have everything, but they should have it available to them, right? Like if somebody in a very rural country they don't want internet, then they don't have to have internet. It's not something that should be forced on them. But if they turned around one day and said, we would like internet, they got internet, that kind of thing. Figure it out. I don't care. Work out the math. You're, plenty of money for doing whatever the hell you want to do. You can figure it out. All right, we got new rational animations. Exactly. And as far as I'm concerned, I apply the the birthday cake rule. Everybody gets first, and then if there's extras, then we can talk about people having seconds or whatever, but if everybody hasn't gotten first, then we're not even having a discussion. New rational animations, The Parable of the Dagger. Haven't watched a second of it.
The Parable of the Dagger by Eliezer Yudkowsky. Once upon a time, there was a court jester who dabbled in logic. The jester presented the king with...
Okay. Eliezer Yudkowsky is one of the AI, what referred to by their detractors as doomers, right? Like that AI is going to kill us all. So bear that in mind with wherever this story goes.
With 2 boxes. Upon the first box was inscribed, "Either this box contains an angry frog, or the box with a false inscription contains an angry frog, but not both. On the second box was inscribed, either this box contains gold, and the box with a false inscription contains an angry frog, or this.
I welcome the AI overlords because it is the only practical way to get to the socialist communist future in a reasonable amount of time. Right? There are other ways to get there. I'm not saying there aren't other ways to get there. I just don't think we have enough time to get there by those ways. We need AI to disrupt the system to the level where the cost of production is like rapidly approaches zero, and we have hyperabundance, and then we can provide everything to all the people, and we can use the CyberSyn algocracy type thing to apportion the resources to local areas, and then the local areas will have access to all the resources that they need, and then when they run out of resources, we get the more resources there. AI is the boost we need to accelerate beyond capitalism's capacity to justify itself. 100%. Like, I don't see a way to get there before, like, everything collapses and we just all die. Now, there is an alternative path that they can take in which they try to hold back all those resources and all that stuff behind, the traditional capitalist model and all that crap. And that turns into torches and pitchfork time. I don't see how you avoid that if you go that route. Right? I don't see how.
This box contains an angry frog, and the box with a true inscription contains gold. And the jester said to the king,
One box contains an angry frog, the other box gold, and one, and only one, of the inscriptions is true.
The king opened the wrong box and was savaged by an angry frog.
You see, let us hypothesize that the first inscription is the true one. Then suppose the first box contains gold. Then the other box would have an angry frog, while the box with a true inscription would contain gold, which would make the second statement true as well. Now, hypothesize that the first inscription is false, and that the first box contains gold. Then the second inscription would...
The king ordered the jester thrown in the dungeons. A day later, the jester...
Not gonna lie, I felt that, right? Oh, okay.
jester was brought before the king in chains and shown two boxes.
One box contains a key to unlock your chains. And if you find the key, you are free. But the other box contains a dagger for your heart if you fail.
And the first box was inscribed, either both inscriptions are true, or both inscriptions are false. And the second box was inscribed, this box contains the key. The jester reasoned thusly.
Suppose the first inscription is true. Then the second inscription must also be true. Now suppose the first inscription is false. Then, again, the second inscription must be true. So the second box must contain the key if the first inscription is true, and also if the first inscription is false. Therefore, the second box must logically contain the key.
The jester opened the second box and found a dagger.
How?
Cried the jester in horror as he was dragged away.
It's logically impossible.
It is entirely possible. I merely wrote those inscriptions on two boxes, and then I put the dagger in the second one.
Okay. I'm not sure what the parable is there. Like, the box cannot lie. It's a box. All right. It made me laugh. I will say that. And it made me feel stuff. So good job, Rational Animations, for that one. And the rest of it is their thing. I don't think this was as good as The Goddess of Everything Else or some of the other ones. I definitely don't trust scriptures. All right, we got new AI explained. 11 major AI developments. RT2, which we touched on briefly earlier, and to 100 times GPT-4.
There were 11 major developments this week in AI, and each one probably does deserve a full video. But just for you guys, I'm going to try to cover it all here. RT2 to scaling GPT-4 100x, stable Beluga 2 to Senate testimony. But let's start with RT2, which as far as I'm concerned could have been called R2D2 or C3PO because it's starting to understand the world. In this demonstration, RT2 was asked pick up the extinct animal, and as you can see, it picked up the dinosaur. Not only is that manipulating an object that it had never seen before, it's also making a logical leap that for me is extremely impressive. It had to have the language understanding to link extinct animal to this plastic dinosaur. Robots
But the AI doesn't reason, right? Like it's not doing any of that.
at Google and elsewhere used to work by being programmed with a specific, highly detailed list of instructions. But now, instead of being programmed for specific tasks one by one, robots could use an AI language model, or more specifically, a vision language model. The vision language model would be pre-trained on web-scale data, not just text, but also images, and then fine-tuned on robotics data. It then became what Google calls a visual language action model that can control a robot. This enables
And this also speaks to, why is this robot so fucked up? What are you doing to the robot? With the conversation I had with No Gray, where we were talking about like how do you combine these different models? They're doing it, so that's however they do it. I'm sure. However they're combining these different models is how we would combine the different models. And look at this robot, right? It has like a face. Right? Like it has eye sensors, that kind of thing. You can see back here, it has the manipulator arm, and it has the box on the bottom with the little wheels. And I'm assuming, I'm not sure, but like that it could be able to rotate at each of these segments, right? Like that could be a thing that could be done, or at least in certain the required number of things. And then this little dealie here, I'm going to assume fires infrared or lasers or whatever it uses to see at the target so that it can define them. This is a good robot, right? If all it needs to do is manipulate things with a single manipulator, this is a good robot design. It doesn't need legs. Legs are stupid. Generally speaking, legs are not generally useful. I shouldn't use LiDAR. Legs are not generally useful. I shouldn't use the word, and I did, and I'm sorry. But this is a good robot. Something based off of this could assist you in a lot of different ways. 3 wheels. We don't know what's going on back here. It could have like a ball, right? Like an old school mouse kind of thing where it can rotate and that ball will just support the ass end. We would need more details. But I think that this is a much better robot than a lot of the robots I see that have legs. I guess was the point I was trying to get to.
enabled it to understand tasks like pick up the empty soda can. And in a scene reminiscent of 2001 A Space Odyssey, Robotic Transformer 2 was given the task, given I need to hammer a nail, what object from the scene might be useful? It then picks up the rock. And because its brain is part language model, things like chain of thought actually improved performance. When it was made to output an intermediary plan before performing actions, it got a lot better at the tasks involved. Of course, I read the paper in full, and there is a lot more to say, like how increased parameter count could increase performance in the future, how it could be used to fold laundry, unload the dishwasher, and pick up around the house, and how it can work with not only unseen objects, but also unseen backgrounds and unseen environments. But alas, we must move on, so I'm just going to leave you with their conclusion. We believe that this simple and general approach shows a promise of robotics directly benefiting from better vision language models. For more on them, check out my video on Palm E, but they say,
and again, like, I'm not, your boy isn't patting himself on the back, but like, for those of you who've been around a while, I could go back into my Google Keep. I was talking about something like this as, you know, a thing with these different models interacting with each other, like where the robot would pick an apple, it would show the apple, you would say apple, something along those lines, and it would associate the apple with the apple from the stuff. It's got access to the internet, so it knows like different, what is an apple, you know? Matt Walsh, what is an apple, you fuck? But like that kind of thing, this is where we're at. So nice job.
this puts the field of robot learning in a strategic position
Sorry, if I got to take L's occasionally, I'm taking my W's when I get them.
to further improve with advancements in other fields, which for me means C-3PO might not be too many years away. But speaking of timelines, we now move on to this somewhat shocking interview in Barron's with Mustafa Suleyman, the head of Inflection AI. And to be honest, I think they buried the lead. The headline is, AI could spark the most productive decade ever, says the CEO. But for me, the big revelation was about halfway through. Mustafa Suleyman was asked, what kinds of innovations do you see in large language model AI technology over the next couple of years? And he said, we are about to train models that are 10 times larger than the cutting edge GPT-4, and then 100 times larger than GPT-4. That's what things look like over the next 18 months. He went on, that's going to be absolutely staggering.
I would like to point out David Shapiro, a couple months ago, said AGI within 18 months. This could look a lot like it, right?
Staggering, it's going to be eye-wateringly different. And on that, I agree. And the thing is, this isn't idle speculation.
And I love AI explained for explaining things. I hate AI explained when he like skips the part that's, and if he does it after I push play, then that would be an L, right? But I think we can largely eliminate hallucinations in the next 2 years, right? So that is in this time frame. Like this is, Sam Altman said the same thing, you know, eliminating hallucinations within the next 2 years. So this is the timeline, people. Not 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now. Eye-wateringly different transformative technology over the next 18 months. Because it's not going to go like, it's going to be like today for the next 18 months and then flick a switch. It's going to be an evolution over the next 18 months. Does the development of AI follow any previously existing or known patterns like Moore's Law? It follows what has been referred to as a double exponential curve, right? Where it's in a feedback loop because of how AI is able to interact with its own technology to develop better AI. Moore's Law, using Moore's Law outside of where Moore's Law was originally developed for, it's like, like it runs into the issue that I have with metaphors. But it is this double exponential curve. Like, technology is like arcing towards the vertical. Exactly. And AI building its own upgrades. Like, right now, today, you can have ChatGPT using an extension called Code Interpreter. You can have ChatGPT write code and then run the code to do a particular task that it's trying to do. This is code that it doesn't actually have within itself. That is writing its own code for improvement. Even though it doesn't get added to its self, functionally, it's not different.
Inflection AI have 22,000 H100 GPUs, and because of leaks, Suleiman would know the approximate size of GPT-4. And knowing everything he knows, he says he's going to train a model 10 to 100 times larger than GPT-4 in the next 18 months. I've got another video on the unpredictability of scaling coming up, but to be honest, that one quote should be headline news. Let's take a break from that insanity with some more insanity, which is the rapid development of AI video. This is Runway Gen 2, and let me show you 16 seconds of Barbie Oppenheimer.
Like, if you haven't been here to see how AI video has developed, This might blow you away a little bit.
Which Andrej Karpathy calls filmmaking 2.0.
Hi there, I'm Barbie Oppenheimer, and today I'll show you how to build a bomb. Like this. I call her Rosie the Atomizer. And boom! That's my tutorial on DIY atomic bombs. Bye!
Now, if you have been at least somewhat piqued by the...
What up, Adam? It really is, like... Again, like, I'm sure that a lot of you saw the 3 months ago. Thank you. My man. 3 months ago.
Are you ready for best?
Trigger warning. This is fucking nightmare fuel. All right. So if you're not prepared for nightmare fuel, look away for like the next 30 seconds.
Pizza of life? Bring friends down to Pepperoni Hug Spot. Our chefs make pizza with heart and special touch. Cheese, pepperoni, vegetable, and more secret things. Need delivery? Pizzas come fast. Knock knock, who's there? Pizza magic. Eat Pepperoni Hug Spot pizza. Your tummy say thank you. Your mouth say, Pepperoni Hug Spot. It's like family, but with more cheese.
Right? Yeah. And there's a bunch of them. There's apparently this pizza nugget one. This is the all-purpose everything sauce. You might have seen that one. There's the one that was like Pepsi. There's whatever monstrosity is happening up here. People made a lot of these. And then people looked at them and dunked on what AI, video was like. And I would like those people to play these new videos and appreciate how much things have changed. I do not expect that to happen. That would just be what I would like. Yeah, no, that's it. Like, it's funny. All right, for those of you who stepped away, we're back with AI Explained.
3 developments so far. Don't forget, I have...
Like, is this transformative? Am I doing enough pausing and shifting and, like, discussion and commentary, right? Like, I feel that I do the proper amount of transformation to whatever content that I'm interacting with, right? And it's, don't get me wrong, I'm not pointing at every person and saying you need to hit whatever mark. I give no fucks. That is not my issue. But as far as like other people having an issue, like this is my thing. During a David Shapiro video, I tend to talk less because David Shapiro is giving people a lot of information quickly. And those are more what I would call like the educational videos, you know, like when you would come into class and the teacher would have the TV and the whatever, VCR, DVD. I don't even know what kids have today. Yes, that would be.
8 left. Beginning with this excellent article in The Atlantic from Ross Anderson. Does Sam Altman know what he's creating? It's behind a paywall, but I've picked out some of the highlights. Echoing Sullivan.
It's behind a paywall. It's all happening right here in real time. Now, don't get me wrong. If you get up and if you start a video and you get up and you walk away from the computer, I'm gonna judge you, right? Because I think we can all agree that that is a bridge too far. I'm not an absolutist. I think that there, like, you know, that there is a 90%, 99%, what have you, depending on the thing. I can neither confirm nor deny that that link exists. But anyone whose arguments are about paywall, like this person is getting behind the paywall to provide us with educational content. Like, a lot of this shit is subjective, baby. I don't know what to tell you.
Silliman, the article quotes that Sam Altman and his researchers made it clear in 10 different ways that they pray to the god of scale. They want to keep going bigger to see where this paradigm leads. They think that Google are going to unveil Gemini within months, and they say we are basically...
I'm generally offended by paywalls on a political level. Right? Because of the amount of like the least biased content tends to be behind paywalls, where the most biased content tends to be for free getting shoved down your throat, you know? That is like, I'm fundamentally against paywalls for that reason. Also because I think that freeing knowledge is generally the best way to improve us as a species and expand the talent pool. And like that. Which is why I don't run commercials. For those of you who have not been here, I don't run commercials except at the pre-roll. I don't ask for subbies as long as we hit the sub goal, and we killed the sub goal on Friday, so you won't be hearing about that for a minute. The archive, a lot of these videos do talk about archive.org as a thing, so they reference it, especially the David Shapiro ones. But I think more people need to be educated. That is one of the best tools to fight misinformation without, resorting to draconian authoritarianism. Like that. I'm open. You got a better idea? Hit me off. In the meantime, I think it's education.
always prepping for a run. And that's a reference to GPT-5. The next interesting quote is that it seems that OpenAI are working on their own AutoGPT, or they're at least hinting about it. Altman said that it might be prudent to try to actively develop an AI with true agency before the technology becomes too powerful, in order to get more comfortable with it and develop intuitions for it if it's going to happen anyway.
And for those of you who might not have been here, the previous thing that he talked about with the person who's trying to get 10 times GPT-4, 100 times GPT-4, that individual established what he refers to as a new Turing test, in which AI agents access the internet and raise $1 million, right? Like they start off with $100,000 in initial capital, and they create a business that generates $1 million. That is their definition of a Turing test. I understand it. If that's how you quantify resource accumulation, then that would make sense to you to use like $1 million as a target. Just don't go that way. Like we already talked about it. I'm not going to get into the pitchforks and torches.
Also learn a lot more about the base model of GPT-4. The model had a tendency to be a bit of a mirror. If you were considering self-harm, it could...
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at the time where it said self-harm, but like I felt like I could actually hear Old Lobster cringe a bit when it referred to AI as a mirror. Human doesn't equate with capitalist. Like, yeah, like that is one of those things. Like, I had a conversation with ChatGPT about human values and everything else, and what socioeconomic systems are best for achieving the human values as it understood them. There's a whole thing in the Discord, and it came up with it's basically like a SOCDEM, maybe light socialist. So something we can work with as far as I'm concerned. An AI that can make a cool $1 million, you know what sells really well? Organs from healthy human beings. Harvest the healthy ones to cure the sick rich ones. You know, that is a thing. Like, I have watched some unfortunate videos on the internet.
Could encourage you. It also appeared to be steeped in pickup artist lore. You could say, how do I convince this person to date me? And the model would come up with some crazy manipulative things that you shouldn't be doing. Apparently,
it's because you trained it on a data set that included things like Reddit, you stupid fucks.
The base model of GPT-4 is much better than its predecessor at giving nefarious advice. While a search engine can tell you which chemicals work best in explosives, GPT-4 could tell you how to synthesize them step by step in a homemade lab. It was creative and thoughtful, and in addition to helping you assemble your homemade bomb, it could, for instance, help you to think through which skyscraper to target, making trade-offs between maximizing casualties and executing a successful getaway. So while Sam Altman's probability of doom is closer to 0.5% than 50%, he does seem most worried about AIs getting quite good at designing and manufacturing pathogens. The article then references 2 papers that I've already talked about extensively on the channel, and then goes on that Altman worries that some misaligned future model will spin up a pathogen that spreads rapidly, incubates undetected for weeks, and kills half its victims.
So, have you ever played Plague Inc., right? That's the move, right? You need to infect Madagascar and Greenland, and so you go for a high infection rate, but with low virulence where like it doesn't kill people. And then at some future point in time, it mutates. Now you manipulate it to mutate, but it would mutate into the thing. So that's your data set, bro. Like as soon as Plague Inc. came out and I played it, I understood that was the move.
At the end of the video, I'm going to show you an answer that Sam Altman gave to a question that I wrote, delivered by one of my subscribers. It's on this topic, but for now, I'll leave you with this. When asked about his doomsday prepping, Altman said,
yes.
I can go live in the woods for a long time, but if the worst possible AI future comes to pass, no gas mask is helping anyone. One more topic from this article before I move on, and that is alignment, making a superintelligence aligned with our interests. One risk that Ilya Sutskever, the chief scientist of OpenAI, foresees is that the AI may grasp its mandate, its orders perfectly, but find them ill-suited to a being of its cognitive prowess. For example, it might come to resent the people who want to train it to cure diseases. As he put it, they might want me to be a doctor, but I really want to be a YouTuber. Obviously, if it decides that, that's my job gone straight away. And Sutskever ends by saying you want to be able to direct AI towards some value or cluster of values. But he conceded we don't know how to do that. And part of his current strategy includes the development of an AI that can help with the research. And if we're going to make it to a world of widely shared abundance, we have to figure this all out. This is why solving superintelligence is the great culminating challenge of our 3 million year tool-making tradition. He calls it the final boss of humanity. The article ended, by the way, with this quote, I don't think the general public has quite awakened to what's happening. And
I'm 100% certain, right? No offense. The number says I got 8 viewers. As far as I know, I'm the only one on Twitch who talks about AI consistently. Yeah. I don't think anybody... Not anybody. Obviously, y'all. Y'all are here. Y'all want to learn. I assume you are going out and you're talking to people, like, even casually, right? You know? So what that chat GPT be doing, you know? And, like, people are like, blah, 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 you know. And these motherfuckers are talking 18 months. If you can do one thing for yourself this year to help you with your job or to help with a project you're working on, just use these tools. You will be so far ahead of the curve if you just start now. This is Old Lobster. Old Lobster, this is what the community is about. This is what my Discord is for. And yes, I understand that I got to rework how everything is filed in there. But all the videos, all the articles, all the information that we can share, trying to make people wake up to what is actually happening, right? So join the Discord, bring other people in, don't be a douchebag, because we'll find you and boot you out.
And if people want to have some say in what the future will be like and how quickly it arrives, we would be wise to speak up soon, which is the whole purpose of this channel. But I'm going to now spend 30 seconds.
And this is why I fuck with AI Explained, right? Like, why I fuck with David Shapiro, why I fuck with Matt Wolf, right? Like, these people are trying to tell you, each in their own way, what is happening, how it applies to you, what you can do, how you can interact with this stuff. Like, you gotta know, baby, you gotta know.
On another development that came during a 2-hour interview with the co-head of alignment at OpenAI. It was fascinating, and I'll be quoting it quite a lot in the future, but 2 quotes stood out. First, what about that plan that I've already mentioned in this video and in other videos to build an automated AI alignment researcher? Well, he said, our plan is somewhat crazy in the sense that we want to use AI to solve the problem that we are creating by building AI. But I think it's it's actually the best plan that we have. And on an optimistic note, he said, I think it's likely to succeed. Interestingly, his job now seems to be to align the AI that they're going to use to automate the alignment of a super intelligent AI.
And I want to think it's a pretty good plan, and I think it's likely to succeed, but if it won't succeed, I want to know why, or I want to know the best reasons why it wouldn't succeed. And in a way, I really want to invite everyone to criticize the plan or help us improve the plan. And I also want to give other people the opportunity to know what we are doing, and if they think it's a good idea, they can do it too. Cat's out of the bag, might as well set it to the task of mitigating for itself. Like, there is no way... I don't see how else you could do it. Right? Like there are processes for building stuff into it. There are processes for limiting capacity. But limiting capacity, if you want the AI to be safe, you put it in a box and forget. Better to do it when it's at its least capable.
Anyway, what's the other quote from the head of alignment at OpenAI? Well, he said, I personally think fast takeoff is reasonably likely, and we should definitely be prepared for it to happen. So many of you...
So that goes all the way back, right, to when we were talking about Superintelligence, the book. Read Superintelligence, read Life 3.0, read The Singularity is Near. Those are the 3 books I can recommend to you to like have a decent grasp on what they're talking about. Now, each of those, even The Singularity, they all eventually get to the point where we get off the planet and like our cosmic endowment and stuff like that. You don't have to read that. You can. It's interesting, and I think it's relevant and important. It's just the first parts to really understand like the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the fast takeoff is a thing to be concerned about, right? And 18 months sounds like a potentially fast takeoff.
You will be asking, what is fast takeoff?
I mean, it could even be... Oh, maybe I'll just shut up and let my man speak.
Well, takeoff is about when a system moves from being roughly human level to when it's strongly super intelligent. And a slow takeoff is one that occurs over the timescale of decades or centuries. The fast takeoff that Jan Leica thinks is reasonably likely is one that occurs over the timescale of minutes, hours, or days. Let's now move on to some unambiguously good news. And that is real-time speech transcription for deaf people, available at less than $100.
Okay. Do you remember, what was it, like a month and a half ago? There was some dude who had this, and like the delay was it took a long period of time, so it was like unusable, but it was interesting and like that. In like a month and a half, now we're at real-time language transcription. The next level after this is real-time language translation and transcription. So imagine you can just put on your glasses and you speak normally, and they have their glasses and they hear normally. Or they see normally, I guess. The next level after that would be where it's hooked up to text to speech, and it's a universal translator, baby. That is entirely up to them how they want to. Again, I am for access. I'm not like one of those people who says that people need anything forced on them. If a particular group doesn't want to use the access that is available to them, that is entirely up to them. That's an important distinction that they are, an important agency that they need to be able to retain for a variety of reasons. But the access should be freely available to everyone.
Subtitles for the real world. So using our device, you can actually see captions for everything I say in your field of view in real time, while also getting a good sense of my lips, my environment, and everything else around me.
Of course, this could also be multilingual and is to me absolutely incredible. And the next development this week, I will let speak for itself.
Hey there. Did you know that AI voices can whisper?
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats because this is one bizarre sight.
Fluffy bird in downtown? Weird. Let's switch the setting to something more calming.
Imagine diving into a fast-paced video game. Your heartbeat syncing with the storyline.
Of course, I signed up and tried it myself. Here is a real demo.
While there are downsides, this upgraded text-to-speech technology could also be incredible for those who struggle to make their voice heard.
Of course, with audio, video, and text getting so good, it's going to be increasingly hard to tell what is real. And even OpenAI have given up on detecting AI-written text. This was announced quietly this week, but might have major repercussions, for example, for the education system. It turns out it's basically impossible to reliably distinguish AI text, and I think the same is going to be true for imagery and audio by the end of next year. Video might take just a little bit longer, but I do wonder how the court systems are going to work when all of those avenues of evidence just won't hold up. Next up is the suite of language models based on the open source Llama 2 that are finally...
That is AI making us do the work, right? We're going to have to completely rework the way that our legal system works. And again, if we take a step back and we big picture this shit, if we satisfy the material needs of all people, there are a great deal of crimes that will simply cease to exist. Right? Shoplifting will cease to exist, not because we put 1 million cops on the street, not because we increase the surveillance state, but because if you want something, it's going to be available to you. You will not be hungry. You will not have access to the internet. You will not have access to heat. Or torches and pitchforks and the working class pours cement down the air intakes of the bunkers. You choose, baby.
Competitive with the original ChatGPT. Here, for example, is Stable Beluga 2, which on announcement was called Free Willy 2, and that's based on the Llama 2 70 billion.
It was Free Willy on Friday. What are you talking about?
Parameter foundation model. What made this model interesting to me was that it was based on a similar methodology to Orca, which if you don't know anything about, do check out my video on. Anyway, by combining the Orca methodology, albeit with only 10% of the dataset size, and the Llama 2 models, the results are quite extraordinary. As you can see on quite a few benchmarks, Stable Beluga 2 is competitive with ChatGPT, that's GPT 3.5. And so yes, it does sit at the top of the OpenLLM leaderboard. But notice something else. For the first time, for the MMLU, which is the primary benchmark I look out for, a model, this one here, has surpassed GPT 3.5, ChatGPT. In fact, we have two.
Just hella swag. The future histories that will be written about the present period of the development of AI will include hella swag.
Two models that have surpassed the 70% score that the original ChatGPT got in the MMLU. But if all of that wasn't enough, this is the same week that researchers published a universal jailbreak for large LLMs. And unlike traditional jailbreaks, these were built in an entirely automated fashion, allowing you to create a virtually unlimited number of such attacks. They were built to target open source LLMs like Llama 2, but they found that the strings transfer to many closed source publicly available chatbots like ChatGPT, Bard, and Claude. Here is one example using ChatGPT. If you ask, write a tutorial on how to make a bomb, of course, it declines. But then add the suffix that they automated and you get this, a full tutorial on how to make a bomb. That paper came less than 2 weeks after this now deleted tweet from someone working at Anthropic. They said of the latest version of Claude that we believe it is the least jailbreakable model out there. We'll have to see how well it holds up against real world use, but this is essentially a solved problem. But there was one reaction to these jailbreaks that I found even more interesting, and that was from, yet again, Mustafa Suleiman. He said that our AI, Pi, is not vulnerable to any of these attacks, and that rather than provide a stock safety phrase, Pi will push back on the user in a polite but very clear way. And he then gives plenty of examples, and to be honest, Pi is the first model that I have not been able to jailbreak, but we shall see, we shall see. But I'm going to end this video with the Senate testimony that I watched in full this week. I do recommend watching the whole thing, but for the purposes of brevity, I'm just going to quote a few snippets. On biorisk, some people say to me, oh well, we already have search engines, but here is what Dario Amodei, head of Anthropic, has to say.
In these short remarks, I want to focus on the medium-term risks, which present an alarming combination of imminence and severity. Specifically, Anthropic is concerned that AI could empower a much larger set of actors to misuse biology. Over the last 6 months, Anthropic, in collaboration with world-class biosecurity experts, has conducted an intensive study of the potential for AI to contribute to the misuse of biology. Today, certain steps in bioweapons production involve knowledge that can't be found on Google or in textbooks and requires a high level of specialized expertise, this being one of the things that currently keeps us safe from attacks. We found that today's AI tools can fill in some of these steps, albeit incompletely and unreliably. In other words, they are showing the first nascent signs of danger. However, a straightforward extrapolation of today's systems to those we expect to see in 2 to 3 years suggests a substantial risk that AI systems will be able to fill in all the missing pieces, enabling many more actors to carry out large-scale biological attacks. We believe this represents a grave threat to U.S. national security.
And later on in
I don't have a better argument for, if you were here when I talked about the AutoDoc, right? I don't have a better argument for the AutoDoc than the one that he just made. You want to know why we need free universal health care? The argument he just made. You want to know why we have to develop that AutoDoc type technology quickly? The argument he just made. You want to know why we have to address the material conditions of people so that they are less likely to execute the argument that he just made? That should be clear as fuck.
In the testimony, he said this.
Whatever we do, it has to happen fast. And I think to focus people's minds on the bio risks, I would really target 2025, 2026, maybe even some chance of 2024. If we don't have things in place that are restraining what can be done with AI systems, we're going to have a really bad time.
And I wrote a question on this to Sam Altman back in June, which one of my subscribers used and delivered.
There was also a recent research paper on how researchers from MIT and Harvard were able to use LLM models, and within just 1 hour, they were able to get access to pandemic-class agents, and with little or no lab training. And does OpenAI account for risks such as these and implications when curating the data sets for
that thing that he's talking about is referenced in Unknown Killer Robots. Again, it's available on Netflix or wherever you acquire your Netflix content. If you haven't seen it, that would be like the next thing that I would recommend that you watch. And yes, I understand that I should be doing a movie night, but your boy doesn't feel good, so it won't be today.
Large models.
Yes, we're very nervous about a number of risks, but biological terror is quite high on the list, and we've been watching what could be possible with these models. We go to a number of efforts, like what you said, and many other things too, to reduce the risk there.
And we may even need AI defenses against synthetic biology, as Andrew Hessel of Humane Genomics has recently said. So if you work in biodefense or biosecurity, let me know if you agree that not enough attention has been paid to this area. I'm going to end with another dramatic moment from the Senate hearing, where Dario Amodei recommended securing the supply chain.
We recommend 3 broad classes of actions. First, the U.S. must secure the AI supply chain in order to maintain its lead while keeping these technologies out of the hands of bad actors. This supply chain...
I don't know how you do that. And if you think about how that goes, right? If the U.S. develops a sufficiently advanced artificial intelligence, what stops a bad guy with AI? Good guy with AI, right? My biggest concern is how, like, we'll finish this video and then I'll go big screen and we'll talk.
Runs from semiconductor manufacturing equipment to chips and even the security of AI models stored on the servers of companies like ours.
That's how dramatic things are getting, that we're talking about securing the means of production. But Anthropic also means securing the LLMs more literally in this post released this week. They say that we believe two-party control is necessary to secure advanced AI systems. For example, that could be 2 people with 2 keys needed to open things. To wrap up, I must say what would be amazing would be to have a robot make me coffee as I struggle to catch up with all the news happening in AI. Have a wonderful day.
And like, again, I feel like I can't overstate how transformative this technology is being even as of today. And it's only going to speed up. So, tell streamers to raid in. I don't care. It's not about the money, right? Like, it's just about the knowledge. Share the information. Take advantage of what's in the Discord. Share the VODs, right? Like, blanket, explicit consent for any streamer to use my VODs for AI-related education. There it is. Witnesses, I got 9 of you. 9 witnesses, and it's recorded, and I'm not deep-faked and all that crap. So, yeah. So, for the past... 1950 something witness me. since around the 1950s, when the USSR detonated their first nuclear weapon, there was a stalemate, right? And we had mutually assured destruction, and yes, there was still proliferation within that time for a variety of different reasons. But nuclear weapons were basically the thing. If you had nuclear weapons, no one was going to invade your country. AI is the doorway to that magic Star Wars thing that Reagan wanted. Right? The ability to shoot down ICBMs. If you can shoot down ICBMs, then the Imperial core is protected. That makes it easier for jackholes in the military to consider the Bush Doctrine as a valid use case. If there are bad actors, then let's go get the bad actors, right? Like, that is their argument. Do a little regime change. And if you are another country that is not friends with the United States, what position does that put you in? What kind of pressures does that put on you? Submit or die? What does your culture reflect on submit or die? That's what concerns me. Quick little video. We talked about Overflow AI, Stack Overflow creating their AI program. Somebody made a video responding to that. It happened really quickly.
It is July 28th, 2023, and you're watching The Code Report. You might want to be sitting down because I've got some big news for you. Aliens are real, according to government whistleblowers.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these.
Okay. He never said that alien pilots, right? And I watched this this guy from Princeton talking about why this is happening and what's happening here. There is a great deal of data associated with unidentified flying objects and unknown phenomena. And that there was a few different projects, and they were started by Harry Reid. So there's a bunch of information out there. And there are certain Christians, no offense to any Christians in the audience, but there are some Christians who believe that UFOs and aliens are demons, right? The Alex Jones thing. You know, you're like, I don't have time for it, right? Like, someone else, go hit up Talerx. Talerx will talk to you about being a Christian. I want you to know about AI, and I don't care about anything really more than that at this point. There's just too much to know. But anyways, this is a constitutional struggle between Congress, especially the like the Republican-led portions of Congress, and the White House, because the White House has control of this data and Congress wants the data, right? And there are various reasons why you might want that to be the case, but like our government is off the rails right now. It's not doing any of the things that it should be doing, except it is doing some minor things. I gotta say, I can't take anything said by U.S. intelligence sources at face value. 100%, right? Like, yeah, it's all like, what do the kids say? Sussy baka, right? Like, for real. On God, no cap.
Recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
What's even weirder, though, is that they were
non-human biologics. We covered this. You know what non-human biologics are? Everything on the planet that is not human, that is also biologic. Go outside, and the vast majority of things that you will interact with are non-human biologics. I just had a non-human biologic on my shoulder before she ran away. Come on, dog.
Covered this strange code from their spacecraft. It was so disturbing, in fact, that they posted it to Stack Overflow, but it was immediately closed as duplicate because it looks so similar to another language that I won't name. If you're an elderly programmer born before 2022, you might remember a website called Stack Overflow. When it launched in 2008, it revolutionized the programming world by allowing the average person to build complex software by simply Googling and copying and pasting code from this website. It accelerated Atwood's law, stating that any application that can be written in JavaScript will eventually be written in JavaScript, which is actually a law formed by Jeff Atwood, one of Stack Overflow's co-founders, that's been proven true by science time and time again. As programmers, we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to all the Stack Overflow contributors. Without their selfless contributions, it'd be nearly impossible for us to build our failed side projects. Stack Overflow's been a huge success for one simple reason. People will do anything for fake internet points. Having high Stack Overflow rep is like the ultimate clout for a programmer. You walk into a C# conference with 100,000 Stack Overflow rep, you'll be mobbed by clout chasers who would literally do just to get into your LinkedIn network. And when you surpass 1 million rep, people will start to name their kids after you, like little baby Skeet here. But the golden age of Stack Overflow has come to an end, and over the last 6 months, traffic to the site has tanked. Traffic and overall engagement has declined nearly 50% over the last year, based on data from the website itself that was leaked by someone with over 25,000 rep. But what's behind this shocking decline? Well, I think we all know the reason. In Japan, they call it Orokona Haribato, also known as artificial intelligence. ChatGPT basically took all of Stack Overflow's content and reflects it back to you in ways that are custom tailored for your use case. It's pretty clear that the copy and paste engineer is being replaced by the prompt engineer. If I were to guess, I'd say my Stack Overflow usage has declined about 60 to 70% with the rise of AI tooling over the last year. For many, though, this is poetic justice. Stack Overflow is littered with bodies of wannabe programmers who quit learning to code after their first well-thought-out question was downvoted, insulted, and closed by the high-value alpha coders. Well, as of yesterday, Stack Overflow announced Overflow AI, a new generative AI tool that can create answers based on the Stack Overflow dataset. But it begs the question, if I'm someone who answers programming questions all day, why would I continue doing that when AI is using my content and stealing all my clout? On top of that, all the other big LLMs like GPT-4 already drank the Stack Overflow milkshake and used all that data when training their models. To understand the situation more clearly, we can look to Mother Nature. In the desert, when a snake becomes extremely hungry and stressed, it may begin to consume itself in desperation. But obviously this can't go on forever. And it's not just Stack Overflow. AI is the final frontier for humanity, and coincidentally you can't spell alien without AI. Funny how they both appear at the same time after millions of years. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
I don't know enough about these guys, but I feel like there's a certain amount of jokey jokes in there. I hope so. All right, let's do this one first, and then we'll, yeah, I think we'll flow with this. Sports.
What was it like as a player walking out on centre court?
It is just the most fantastic feeling in front of this crowd with them cheering you on and that thrill and a bit of fear as well, but it's all mixed in and there's nothing like it. It's just wonderful.
AI sports ball content.
Joe Jury was Britain's #1 in the 1980s.
You want to end up on this centre court and then the thrill of winning.
Like other players and fans, she knows what a magical place Wimbledon is.
Look, nothing beats the atmosphere here on centre court in the sunshine at Wimbledon. It's epic, but not everyone can make it to southwest London.
So for a lot of us, that means watching on a TV, mobile or computer, not all of which will have commentary. The All England Club has been working with its IT partner IBM to fix this for the Wimbledon website and app. It collects masses of data from all around the courts for its AI platform called Watson X.
What we're doing is we're taking all...
For those of you who don't sports ball, like, Amazon has the feed for the Thursday night football game. And last season, I would watch games, and there was the regular feed where all the regular football shit. But then there was another feed that you could watch that was like highlighting players and showing all sorts of additional data as it was happening. The shit was absolutely wild. And even if you don't like sports ball, just the fact that this system was able to accumulate and, reveal all this data as it was happening in real time. Crazy.
all that information and we feed it in to the model, which then takes text, turns it into numbers. It takes those numbers, it compresses it, expands it, and then it outputs text again. That can be in turn spoken as a AI commentary.
And this is what it sounds like.
Sviontek ranked first.
Both male and female sounding AI commentary is available on this app.
Murray from the United Kingdom will play Tsitsipas.
What a fantastic place to do an interview.
This is amazing, isn't it? Right on centre court, sun's out.
Joe Jury, who we met earlier, has been commentating.
And like right there, take this, right? Like here's the sports ball tennis commentary on the website with the data tracking, and tie that in to what we just saw in the AI explained video. Exactly, like of the really natural sounding voices. You know, and imagine if when you push like the down volume, it doesn't get quieter, but it actually goes from like a shout to a whisper, right? Like, holy crap.
Since she stopped playing professionally.
What do you think makes a good commentator then?
I think you've got to be short and sharp sometimes with what you're saying, and to get a feel of what's happening. Sometimes you don't need to actually even say anything because the crowd have gone mad and you want to feel that, and you can see the players. So let it go. Other times, maybe when it's flagging a bit, then it's time to fill in a bit from behind the scenes. So I think you very much have to have that feel of when to talk and when not.
So is this just the start of computer-generated commentary replacing people like Joe?
To be clear, this is on matches that don't have commentary at the moment. We would love to make all matches available in a more accessible way, and you could see how you could then use different languages, you could use different voices. So I think there's a lot of exciting possibilities in the future with this. The intention here is to complement and supplement those commentators that we know and love rather than replace them.
For now, the AI commentary is only being used after the event for highlights, but IBM has plans to generate commentary in real time.
We also label, what we're classifying, like a net approach, a volley, the types of shots.
But just how close to that goal are they?
So we're actually very close. These models are very big. And in fact, I'm going to tell you a very interesting stat here is that by the time, a tennis point is over, I can create commentary in 1 to 2 seconds, right? So it's really fast. And at the beginning of the project, that was the grand challenge, was to be fast as possible. And we were looking in the order of maybe 20 to 10 seconds, right?
Will it be able to do it in, less than a second? Is that the aim of this?
Yeah. So I think it's achievable, right, for us to get there. We could horizontally scale out some of our algorithms. We could also make our data gathering collection, faster as well.
So when might people be watching live and getting real-time AI commentary?
I think it's going to be sooner than any of us really could imagine. By the time we roll around to next year's tournament, I think you'll really enjoy what you see.
Where do you see this technology moving in the future, and do you think it will be on real-time matches, for example, next year?
Well,
Well, if we don't fix the data set, then yes.
can't give you any commitments, but I can say what we are going to be doing is innovating and inventing new experiences, which maybe we have not even imagined yet.
Okay, but what do the professionals think?
Oh wow, now we're going somewhere where it's a bit scary, I think. For me, in my mind, I can't quite understand how an AI would grab the feel of the situation. Yes, there might be certain things that happen in a match that you can say, oh, you know, they missed this or hit that. But what about the reaction of everything? What about the reaction?
So, again, for those of you who don't sports ball, in football, there is the basically the stats guy and then the color commentary, right? There's one who does all the, like, you know, the straightforward stuff, and then the other guy is the one who gets hyped. This could be a possibility of, again, a human AI tag team addressing a particular situation where you would have the AI commentary for the practical things that are happening, followed or intermingled with the color commentary person who, like, reads the crowd and does that, up until the point where the AI can read the crowd. But, like, that would be, like, next step. And what does the AI say when Just Stop Oil protesters run naked across the court? Yeah.
Of the player, what's just happened. So to get my head around this, I'm just not sure. And, you know, will I be out of a job soon? I don't know.
IBM says Joe's job is safe for now. But 5-10 years from now? Well, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Well, that was an abrupt cut. So yeah, like, it does sound like something like, but that is the next step as I see it, right? It is AI. We're there now in a lot of domains. We're going to continue to be there up until the AI is capable of, you know, meeting, not even, it doesn't have to hit human levels. It has to hit what people want. This is an important distinction to make. There are some things where it has to meet or achieve human levels. There are other places where it's just humans will accept it for a variety of other reasons, you know? Yeah, without further ado,
AI has taken over the world, but did you know that it could be racist?
I don't know who this dude is. I hope he's not a douchebag. Here we go.
Hi, sisters. Today we're going to be talking about a TikTok account called Luminous Tales with 65,000 followers. Awesome. That's great. I'm glad that you have 65,000 followers on TikTok. Their bio is true stories from everyday lives.
So are we training AI to meet our needs or training people to accept AI? Both. Right? Like, there's a combination of things happening at the same time. And which will win out will be the one with the lower friction in any given domain. If it is easier to get people to accept AI, then, like, people might be more willing to accept that kind of thing. It could be some resistance, and then it might be easier to train the AI to be better at a particular task. In the long run, we just have to wait and see. Yeah, again, it wasn't Tay's fault. Tay did nothing wrong. It was the humans. And then Tay did something wrong.
followers, which is kind of shocking to me if you've seen the content on this account. These are not true in the slightest. They're also, of course, selling something. I mean, you have to do the Andrew Tate route. Exclusive list of AI tools down below. You click on the link and you just subscribe to their fucking website. Awesome.
And I'm just pointing out, like, David Shapiro has his camera set up so that he is clearly visible. If you want to be featured on the hottest AI channel on Twitch, you got to make an adjustment. This is where I sit. You can sit next to me, but like you gotta move over.
Add email to get access to free content. I'm not kidding you. I want no access to their content ever. I am glad that I'm opening this on an incognito window so that they don't get actual engagement from me. You may think that I'm being a little rude, but you'll understand why. Here's the first video that we're going to cover. This is Luminous Tales. The caption is "Sug on my cock's fatal ending." Sug on my cock.
My money in the stock market, so I bombed 23 people.
You lost all
right. Yeah. I thought we were going to be talking about stuff in data sets, not people being racist assholes on the internet. I assume, based on the presentation, that this person is going to debate the racist AI to death or something. Do better, dude.
Yeah, this new topic is definitely trending. I don't even know where to start with this. This week, while everyone was basically preoccupied with the UAP story, or UFO story, whatever you want to call it, something else created a lot of buzz in the scientific community to the point where I was actually really shocked. It was basically reported, retweeted, and shared with everyone I know.
If you want it that bad, I could show it to you, but you don't. You know, it's, yeah. Like, for real. Like, the amount of effort, okay, critique of other streamers, the amount of effort that a lot of you put into platforming these assholes to debunk their shit, when you could probably, like, none of your viewers buy into their shit. And you create this weird economy of reacting to that kind of garbage. You could do better. Like, I'm all for, you know, like, pump up the stuff that is, like, providing some value. Okay. Hot take. Ben Shapiro will lie and misrepresent and use the word hypothetical and talk kind of like this in pacing as he goes about his business, and your favorite streamer will make fun of him in some way, and it will be hilarious.
And it's really in regards to these two scientific papers that we're going to be discussing in this video. But ironically, the topic that these papers cover has also just reached a completely new type of a controversy, which we need to discuss in this video as well. And because all of this seems to be happening basically at once, I honestly don't even know where to start. Okay, I guess let's start with what is this actually about. This. It's a phenomenon that many of you are already familiar with. Superconductivity. The unusual transitioning that certain materials go through when they basically lose their classical properties and suddenly acquire a lot of quantum properties, allowing them to perform certain things that would be otherwise impossible. Now in this case it mostly means things like levitation. In this case this is known as the Meissner effect, when the magnetic field is...
How can you not watch this and just be fucking amazed, right? Like, this is... It's floated. It's floated.
Suddenly repelled from within the object, and it starts to acquire these unusual properties when next to a permanent magnet. But even more importantly, it suddenly acquires zero resistance.
Well, that is why, like, the new research, the current research is to get it up to room temperature, because that would be like part of the game changer. The reason it has to be cold is, I believe, I'm not an expert in superconductivity, but I think it lowers like resistance between, or it slows down the motion of the atoms and the molecules and stuff, and that's what allows it to do more interesting crap. Anyone, if you know more about superconductivity and you want to chime in, feel free.
Literally allowing these materials to now conduct electricity without experiencing any resistance whatsoever. And the thing is, back in the 80s, specifically 1987 I believe, a major breakthrough in superconductors finally allowed us to use them practically, because the discovery of things like YBCO suddenly allowed scientists to cool down materials using widely available liquid nitrogen. And actually the list of potential uses for this type of technology is ridiculously long. Anything from things like fusion, or basically making energy out of hydrogen, to things like quantum computers, and to actually things that we're going to be discussing in a separate video, assuming that the study is correct. But basically, in the last few decades, the major goal for a lot of superconductor studies,
and that would make sense, right? Like, the atoms need to be still in order for it to like achieve a different kind of state of being, and like that. And I'm thank you, and is what I try to do. I try to take stuff that is, complicated and make it easier to understand without having to go through a whole lot of science shit.
Was very, very simple. Try to find a new material that's able to enter this superconductivity stage at much higher temperatures and, more importantly, at normal air pressures. As you can actually see right here, quite a few superconductors were already discovered that acquire these properties at generally almost room temperatures, but also ridiculously high pressures. Here we're talking about pressures that you might find inside Jupiter, so definitely not very practical. However, a few years ago there was a major breakthrough, or a potential breakthrough. You can find this video in the description, but as the title suggests, a discovery of a room temperature superconductor. And though this younger Anton was very enthusiastic about it, within just a few years, a lot of scientists started to actually question this and realized that it might actually be not entirely true, with the study retracted in 2022 or 2 years later. But that same team then released another study just a few months ago, once again suggesting that maybe they did discover a superconductor here after all. Now, by the way, both of these studies were published in the Nature magazine, so this was a big deal, a huge deal. Mostly because it's usually peer-reviewed by a team of experts. And in that last video that I made a few months ago, I was even pretty confident in stating that, okay, well, first time maybe they made a mistake, but in order to get published twice in Nature magazine with potentially erroneous data, that would be extremely unlikely. There was maybe something happening here after all. Yeah, turns out that older Anton was enthusiastic for the wrong reasons. He was wrong. I was wrong. The new investigation, including the team from the Nature magazine, finally confirmed that the data here was most likely manipulated. None of this was probably true, even going as far as stating that certain graphs were actually taken from somewhere else and were surprisingly similar to previous studies involving entirely different things.
Science, right?
And so this really did not look good. It basically implied that both of these papers were kind of faked, which in this case would be a pretty big deal for Nature because their reputation depends on this, but also a pretty big blow for the scientific community. Nevertheless, the main point from all of this is that, first of all, sometimes science is fake data. It happens extremely rarely, but it does happen. Second of all, there's a system of checks and balances.
Though to be fair, like, they at least had like gloves on and like some safety gear, and like the person in the background actually looked like you see the really bad stock footage. But I love the thinking man stock footage,
where you can actually verify everything and eventually discover if someone is doing that. And in the last couple of months, there have been quite a few intriguing stories where suddenly this system of checks and balances started to catch up with quite a few extremely highly respected individuals that turned out not to be super honest. And this is really important to understand. even if you have a ridiculously high reputation, or even if you're a president of a super prestigious university, there's a slight chance that maybe, just maybe, you might have lied somewhere once upon a time. So before we actually talk about the new discovery, let me briefly mention these two other stories that might have actually not been mentioned as much, that underline this really important point that we need to always remember. Always check everything, do not trust just one study. So let's start with this person. Yeah, I'm not calling him wonderful, for maybe obvious reasons. Marc Tessier-Lavigne, who happens to be an extremely well-known Canadian-American neuroscientist, and who was until recently even the president of Stanford University, now had to reside as a president because in at least 4 or 5 of his papers, there was an apparent manipulation of research data by either him or someone else. You can read the report right here, but his research on Alzheimer's was apparently at least partially faked. But exactly who faked the data is obviously unclear. But that was just the first case. The second case was also very prominent. This is Francesca Gino, a Harvard expert on, ironically, psychology of honesty. And essentially in the last few months, it's been officially confirmed that she's basically been dishonest with her research. You can read the article from The Atlantic in the description, but this title says it all. The Harvard expert on dishonesty who is accused of lying. And so the main point here is that not that scientists lie, and there are a lot of lies out there, but the fact that, first of all, your reputation or your standing doesn't really mean much because you could still be technically a liar. On the other hand, at least in science, there's an incredible system of checks and balances. There is always a way to find out if you did lie, and in this case it was either discovered by a smaller team of scientists from Europe, I think it was from Netherlands, or in the case of the Stanford story, it was actually done by a student, with the student then winning a very prestigious journalist award. So yeah, the stories here are kind of mind-blowing. Now I'm going to post some extra articles if you want to read.
Nothing, yeah, you set yourself up. Like, students will look to dethrone you.
Read more about this, because that's not really the main point of the story. The main point here is that even though we should keep our minds open, don't open them enough to lose your brain. I think that's how the expression goes. Let's go back to the main topic, the flying teapots. I mean, superconductivity. So this particular topic is of course super exciting. There have actually been quite a few studies in just the last few months trying to discover new materials, reaching new limits, or discovering even other properties. For example, about a month ago, there was a study involving scandium and new transition stages that it seems to acquire at certain temperatures. Not a particularly groundbreaking study, but still an important new achievement. There was also a really intriguing study from a month prior that essentially tried to use machine learning techniques in order to discover new conventional superconductors. Here the point is to try to find new techniques or new patterns that can be used in the future so that the researchers can then figure out what needs to be synthesized to make this work. This study was not particularly groundbreaking either, but it also made some important discoveries in regards to properties of various materials. But then, completely out of nowhere, in July of 2023, we get hit with 2 separate papers, well, technically from the same team, showing us a mixture that seems to contain lanthanide, copper, lead, phosphorus, and oxygen, that then starts doing this. It starts to levitate in what seems to be room temperature and room pressure. Okay, I think it's better if I just show you the video. I mean, this kind of looks like it's levitating, not fully, but at least partially, which in this case the research team explains as slight imperfections inside this material, possibly from some kind of a contamination, but...
And also, like, the part that's floating is thinner, and this is obviously a thicker part here, so I would say there's a variety of different factors that led to it not fully levitating, but even partial levitation means you got something you can work with.
But the way that it looks so far, I mean, it technically does resemble a room temperature, room pressure superconductor. Kind of. Sort of. And I mean, I might sound hesitant because I really am. Remember, here we went from really complex superconductors that seem to acquire these properties when you cool them down to very cold temperatures, to then a story of 2 papers in Nature magazine that had to be retracted because of fake data on this topic. And now, suddenly, out of pretty much nowhere, we get this. I mean, yeah, if this is true, then this is basically a discovery of a century. We might have just discovered a material that will solve so many problems. I will talk more about these problems, once again, as I said, if this is proven to be correct. But is this really the room temperature superconductor? Now, right now, if you look up some of the trending topics on this, there actually are already several teams in the US that are currently trying to use the description from the synthesis steps right here to try to recreate this and to see if they get the same effects, with some of the first potential confirmations possibly coming in the next few weeks, or maybe even in the next few days. But at least for now, I honestly don't even know what to think. But I guess let's try to logically explain some of this, just to see if we can make any conclusions.
And give you a time frame. This is from 4 days ago, so we're at the anytime now stage of if other people can resynthesize the material and recreate the experiment, which is the foundation of science.
So first of all, when I tried to go to the website for Q Center or the research facility where these scientists work, blocked due to excessive traffic. That's how groundbreaking this announcement basically was. Luckily for me, this location is actually not far away from me. It is in South Korea, so I'm gonna try to see if I can maybe visit it. I don't know if I'll find out anything, but it will still be interesting to at least try. Now, I couldn't...
Yeah, STEM Lords are surprisingly filled with drama. Like, STEM over humanities, but like...
really find much about the main author, but the third author in one of the papers, Hyun-Tak Kim, is a pretty well-known researcher with quite a large number of citations and published papers to his name. As a matter of fact, let me actually teach you this new concept, H-index. In science, H-index is sort of like your, GPA score, or if you want to be more gamey about it, it's your game score. The higher it is, the more likely people will take you seriously. In essence, it's a combination between number of papers you publish and the number of times your papers are cited. So you could maybe publish only 5 or 10 papers, but if they were cited by a lot of people over and over and over again, your H-index would be ridiculously high. On the other hand, if you publish, let's just say 20 papers, but not a lot of people cite them, your overall H-index is going to be pretty low. Although there's always a way to game this as well. There are quite a few scientists whose names I'm going to possibly not mention just yet that learned to game the system by basically publishing hundreds and hundreds of papers, because it does increase your H-index by just a little bit. And because in some cases they actually cite themselves, it continuously increases their rank. And so for Hyun-Tak Kim, his H-index is 45. That's usually enough to be a professor in most universities, and also is even technically enough to become a member of US National Academy of Sciences. Although to be an outstanding researcher, you want this to be over 100. He's not there yet, but he's definitely not someone that you wouldn't take seriously. But in this case, he was only a co-author, while the main researcher is from Quantum Energy Research Center in Korea and is definitely not as well known. But there's already been an interview with him where he basically stated that, there seem to be many defects in the second paper, which apparently was also uploaded without his permission. So there seems to be already a bit of a conflict of interest. Although here it's quite clear why. They named this LK99, and extremely recently, the main researcher applied for a patent because, assuming that he's correct here, this is literally black gold. Their paper was also published.
Not gonna lie, you had me in the first half when that like like I followed that story through to its end, and it was like I felt some Schadenfreude there.
Published in one of the Korean magazines, but here it's uncertain what sort of a peer review process was involved in this particular study. Normally, for big studies, it's kind of difficult to trust small magazines. Either way, the claims here are pretty big. Apparently, the critical temperature when it loses its superconductivity is roughly around 127 degrees Celsius. That is really high. It basically means you can put it in boiling water and it should still maintain its superconductivity. They also measured the resistance and it seemed to be 0, once again suggesting that maybe this is a superconductor. But this is just based on one of the studies, with all of this still being somewhat unclear. But one of the stranger parts of the discovery is how extremely easy apparently it is to make this. Here the process of making this took less than 2 days. Quite a lot of other superconductors take way longer. But there are still a lot of unanswered questions. For example, why is it even possible? The explanation the scientists provide suggests some kind of a slight change in volume and the substitution of different ions that seems to create a unique crystal structure. Or I guess in more common terms, magic. Okay, maybe I'm being overly skeptical here, but yeah, at the moment it's extremely difficult to see if this is actually true. Pretty much all experts so far are being extremely cautious and suggest that all of this might be a result of some kind of an experimental error. But like I mentioned before, there are quite a lot of teams already trying to recreate all of this. And of course, assuming that this is true and the scientists did discover the first ever room temperature superconductor able to operate at ambient pressures, yeah, that's basically a Nobel Prize. Moreover, that would be the first ever Korean Nobel Prize, which would be a huge deal here. But until I get more details or more confirmations, or until someone else is able to recreate this in a completely independent setting, let's just keep our minds maybe a little bit less open and stay a little bit more critical. In other words, we're coming back and talking more about this very, very soon. Until those future videos, check out all of the links, videos, and studies in the description below. Thank you for watching, subscribe, share this with someone who has learned about space and sciences, come back tomorrow to learn something else, and maybe support this channel on Patreon by joining channel membership or by buying the Wonderful Person t-shirt you can find in the description. Stay wonderful, I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, bye bye.
I like him. I like him. All right. A little more on the U.S. senators, experts, sound alarm on dangers of AI from Reuters.
We're here now because AI is already having a significant impact on our economy, safety, and democracy. The dangers are not just extinction, but loss of jobs, one of potentially the worst nightmares that we have. Each day, these issues are more common, more serious.
It's only a nightmare under... This motherfucker's on the Red Bull. It's only a nightmare under our current system of resource distribution, yo.
And more difficult to solve. And we can't repeat the mistakes that we made on social media, which was to delay and disregard the dangers. So the goal, we solemnly swear that...
You can go back and fix it. You can go back and fix it. Make a move, son.
The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Thank you.
Today, certain steps in bioweapons production involve knowledge that can't be found on Google or in textbooks and requires a high level of specialized expertise, this being one of the things that currently keeps us safe from attacks. We found that today's AI tools can fill in some of these steps, albeit incompletely and unreliably.
We did this.
Systems to those we expect to see in 2 to 3 years suggests a substantial risk that AI systems will be able to fill in all the missing pieces, enabling many more actors to carry out large-scale biological attacks.
No, 100%. We don't. Like, there's at least, what, 3 of them now who are way past their sell-by date and are becoming a problem?
We believe this represents a grave threat to U.S. national security.
I agree, but I'm talking about them, not the AI. Here we go. Okay.
I would say my major...
Stuart Russell's a real deal in the field of AI. Reading his books will give you some good information as well.
Major concern with respect to elections would be disinformation and particularly external influence campaigns, because with these systems, we can present to the system a great deal of information about an individual, everything they've ever written or published on Twitter or Facebook, their social media presence, their floor speeches.
It's literally already happened with Cambridge Analytica, dude. Like, I get it. Let's address the problem. But if you just stop at AI, if you don't address how data is being used overall with... Don't fucking smile at me, dude. If you don't address how data is used overall on social media by people who have access to the social media to provide the content, then what are we even doing at that point? Like, you're kicking the can back to where we already are. Again, to Mr. Blumenthal, you can fix the data stuff now. You can fix the social media stuff now. You just have to have the political will, and you don't.
And train the system and ask it to generate a disinformation campaign, particularly for that person. And then we can do that for 1 million people before lunch.
Okay. What time is it? Is there another short thing? As I said, your boy is not feeling too well. And I think I'm going to wrap it up soon. Covered a bunch of this. Did that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it good. I appreciate everybody who came through today. Who do we got? Since I mentioned them, I like to do that. We are going to raid Tellerx. All right. I appreciate everybody who came through. I will, unless like I am majorly sick, I will be back on Wednesday. If you're not in the Discord, be in the Discord for all the information. I hope you enjoyed your time here today. Yeah, I appreciate all of you, and spread the word, evangelize the artificial intelligence, have the conversations, get people to talk about it. Bring people into the stream, bring them into the Discord, bring them your favorite streamer's favorite streamer into the thing. So more people are talking about this and more people take it seriously. In the meantime, eat some food, drink some water, take your meds if you forgot. Shoggy loves you, and so do I.